Does Ghana also have a plan to get into the China market? Because most of the gallery seems doing this.
Yes, we are very, very interested in Chinese contemporary, but the only reason that we didn't work with Chinese contemporary is that we have a friend who worked in China beforehand. Actually, it's my uncle. His gallery's name is Art Side, and we were one of the first Korean galleries to visit China to art studios about 10, 12 years ago. And then right after visiting China and looking at all those artists, my uncle he wanted to leave our gallery and open a specialized in Chinese contemporary. So we agreed on that. And so he opened up Chinese contemporary gallery, and we stayed away from Chinese contemporary just because to keep our relationships. But now we're looking forward to working with some young Chinese contemporary artists.
How about Pro? 你已经在中国市场差不多有6年了，你怎么看这个市场？就是从它的起一直到降，那到尤其近1-2年，很多人都说这个泡沫快要破灭了，也有很多人说这个泡沫其实它不是个泡沫。那你实际在那边经营，你有什么看法？
You're talking about the bubbles of the Chinese contemporary art?
Yes.
I think first thing is, I think if any of the artists survive after 2008, they're there. And I do not believe that this bubbles up, bursting and all that. And because first thing is in China, actually, there's very few collectors collect Chinese contemporary art, right? It is, and we have a lot of collectors collecting ink brush, traditional ink brush, or realism. And it's very few collectors collecting contemporary. And only recently, there's a whole group of young, I wouldn't say young, between 30s or 40s, Chinese entrepreneurs, and they started to look at the auction market, an auction report, and they decided that because this, I think until 2009, they never heard of an art fund. So they started to buy, following the auction market, to buy the Chinese contemporary art. All right, so this is the beginning of that, and I think there's 2 or 3 Chinese collectors are actually buying from Hong Kong auction place, buying the Chinese contemporary art, and this is for ego. So that's basically, how can it burst when there's not even many Chinese collectors buying Chinese contemporary art in China? There are many Chinese around Asia. In America, they're all Chinese buying contemporary art, Chinese contemporary art, and also in the international market. And surprisingly is even, I have a lot of Saudi Arabs collectors buying Chinese contemporary art.
Mm-hmm. 所以你说其实现在有越来越多的国际的收藏家开始注意到中国的当代艺术。
Actually, the Chinese contemporary art was first collected by Germans and then Swiss, then French, and America only late 90s, and English is really late, only a few years ago. But the Arabs actually started like 10 years ago. I mean, several of my Arab collectors, they started 10 years ago. So it was very surprising when I found out that. And especially we were in Dubai, and when we were in Dubai Art Fair, anybody who comes to the stand, they can say all the Chinese names, artist name. So that is something of surprise to me. All right, and the last few years, when you see in the auction market, it's all sold out by. I mean, most of the people who sold these Chinese contemporary art, they're all expatriate. I mean, they're all foreigners from France, from Germany, and from that, and then it's all mostly they're bought by Chinese from Hong Kong, Chinese from Singapore.
两位可以跟我们谈一下吗？因为其实刚刚大家 两位也有讲到，就是去拓展市场的话，其实最快的方法就是参加世界各地的艺术博览会。那可不可以跟我们分享一下，就是两个画廊，我们先谈一下西方的艺术博览会，就是参加像巴塞啦，还有刚刚 Pro 讲的是到沙特阿拉伯去参加，那杜拜。那去参加这些博览会的时候，身为一个亚洲画廊，两位是如何操作的？他需要听 translate。
So my translation takes time. Actually, we're not in Basel anymore. We were first Korean gallery to participate in Basel, and right about time when we started the auction house, we were asked to leave. And now we don't work with auction house. Partially it's our auction house, but we don't work with them anymore. So we are asking them to take us back. But I think like art fair, like Basels or Arco or Armory shows, I think it's really great way to meet new clients. And actually, I met Paul at Art Brussels, yes, several years ago, and I think it's one of the best way to meet clients directly and new friends.
Pro.
I think international art fairs are very interesting, but very expensive if you have to ship and do all that. But it's definitely a platform. The platform that make your galleries known to the international world, and also you create collaborations there. And it's a very interesting collaborations. And actually, I think my gallery is only being known because we joined Miami since end of 2005. We started with Miami, and that's how our profile begins. Me and the gallery. It's only through art fairs, and that's the surprisingly thing about it. And that's how collectors comes to you, and press, everybody.
那在经过这么多的经验参加这些国际的博览会，那当然亚洲近几年各式各样的博览会也非常的盛行，像上海的博览会也好啦，或者是香港的博览会也好啦。那我知道的是，两位的画廊都是第一次参加我们台北艺术博览会。那两位对于这次参加的经验，有没有什么感想可以跟大家分享一下
？Art forum or art fairs? Art fairs. It's my first time participating in Taipei Art Fair. I participated in Hong Kong and Tokyo and of course Korea. And I think it's very interesting market. I see a lot of potential collectors walking around asking prices, and honestly, I met some collectors from Hong Kong. I didn't realize they were from Taiwan, and I met them here. I found that they live here too, and I think I was here last year too, just speculating. It's much better this year, and it's much more crowd and more strong interest, and I think it's better and better. Yes.
Actually, I'm very impressed with your collectors here. They're very sophisticated compared to Hong Kong or compared to China. And they're very seasoned. They know their work, and they're curious, which I like, because a lot of collectors just like labels, and they just buy labels. It's like buying a Louis Vuitton. But at least the collectors here are willing to ask. They have a passion, which I really enjoy. Talking to people with passion, and I think is it because I always look at Taiwan very differently, because I always thought that Taiwan because of the Chinese moved here in 1949 and never have any it was evolving thing, and it's not like China. So I always have taken that here you have a very deep root culture, and obviously the artists. I'm trying to find out your Taiwanese artist, trying to learn about it, and I think that you should have really good artists as well.
Do you have different strategies to attending these different Asia art fair?
Me or
both?
You can speak.
It's hard to say strategy, but I think there are different points of interest that everywhere where they ask. Especially in Taipei, I didn't know what to bring, so we actually brought everything, like Western art, Korean art, and some Chinese art. And we even had some impressionists on the board because we heard so many things about Taiwanese collectors, how they do a lot of research and they come back and they ask a lot of questions, and they when they're confident they buy it. And but from my experience in Hong Kong and some other European art fairs, they just buy on the full side of whatever they like. And I think today they seem to be very interested in Chinese contemporary and Korean contemporary, but Western art has been very slow. So maybe next time we bring more Asian contemporary here.
What was the question?
Do you have different strategy towards attending these different Asia art fair?
Okay. In general, our focus nowadays is we are focusing in Asia. Although we are continuing having presence and continue with our relationship in Europe and in America, because in China, if I want a Chinese contemporary artist, a Chinese artist needs to be famous abroad first, overseas first, before they can be popular in China. And this is a norm, and this is something that we have to accept. So obviously, we need to have certain presence in and internationally, so that it will be easier for us to talk to any curators, any museum about our artists. But then we are now moving our focus back to Asia instead of completely focusing in the West.